Greetings to all lovers of mysticism and secrets. Some architectural structures raise many doubts about their authenticity. The Great Wall of China is one of them. Scientists still argue about the purpose of the largest monument in Asia. The question of who really owns the Great Wall of China repeatedly arises in various historical sources. So, why was the Chinese wall built? Or maybe it was not built by the Chinese at all. Let's figure it out. One of the most famous structures in the world is the Great Wall of China. I think everyone has heard of it more than once. It is prominently featured on posters and in school textbooks. Like a magnet, it attracts millions of tourists. This massive fortress structure was built in the northern part of China and has been an architectural symbol of global significance since the 17th century. But was ancient China really involved in its construction? In recent years, many scholars have expressed doubts about whether this largest fortress structure on the planet was actually built by the inhabitants of China. Indeed, the interest in the Great Wall of China has been evident among scholars worldwide for many years. By studying ancient maps, historians have determined that fortifications were indeed built on the border of China. But the inexplicable fact is that on some sections of the wall, the battlements are facing towards China. This raises the question, why would the Chinese build a wall from which it is convenient to bombard their own territory? But more on that later. If you visit China, you will be told about the magnificent monument that stretches for thousands of kilometers and about the founder of the Qing dynasty, whose decree more than 2,000 years ago led to the construction of the Great Wall of China. However, some modern scholars strongly doubt that this symbol of the might of the Chinese Empire ever existed before the mid-20th century. So, what are tourists shown? Tourists are shown what was built in the second half of the last century. But real photos of the Chinese wall, we will still see. I managed to find them. And at the end of the video, I will show them to you. I think it's worth starting with the official historical version. According to it, the Great Wall was built to defend against raids by nomadic peoples. But in reality, the Great Wall of China unites at least three major projects from different historical epochs. In other words, it was built by different rulers at different times. But let's start by recalling what we know from historical sources. The construction of the Great Wall of China began in the 3rd century BCE, although this is not conclusively proven. Its total length, including all its branches, is 22,000 kilometers. Over 1 million people were involved in its construction. During the entire construction period, no less than 300,000 people died. These are all official sources. Now the wall is under the protection of UNESCO and is a World Heritage Site. I think we'll finish with the facts here. Do you know how the Chinese wall itself was built? According to history, it was built using rice. In addition to rice, various construction materials were used, including bricks, compacted earth, and stone. By the way, the Chinese did everything with rice. They even built houses out of it, using it as a building material. Sticky rice was mixed with slaked lime, sand, water, creating a strong and durable foundation. But it's strange, isn't it, that a wonder of the world, a huge wall, was built from rice? And all of this was done to protect against ordinary nomads and bandits. Historians claim that up to 1 million people were simultaneously involved in the construction of the wall, and the construction was accompanied by monstrous human sacrifices. However, according to other data, more than 3 million builders were involved, which is half the male population of ancient China. It is unclear what ultimate purpose the Chinese authorities saw in the construction of the Great Wall, as China did not have the necessary military forces, not only to defend, but even to reliably control the wall along its entire length. Why build such a huge wall somewhere in the mountains? Whom were they defending against? Where not only nomads on horses, but even a foot army would hardly reach? Or were the strategists of the Middle Kingdom afraid of an attack by local mountain dwellers? I think that's unlikely. Certainly, the official version is simple. It was all initiated against nomads, barbarians, and Vandals. But according to history, by the time of the wall's creation, China was already the most powerful state in the region. The northern peoples of that time, historically, did not have serious armies, and they could not pose a real threat to the Chinese army. The wall seems to have been of little military necessity. And why does the wall, despite its fantastic length, have a relatively small height, ranging from 3 to 8 meters and rarely up to 10 meters in some places? It is much lower than most European castles or even Kremlins. A strong army equipped with siege technology, ladders, and mobile wooden towers could choose a vulnerable spot on any relatively flat stretch, overcome the wall, and invade China. Most importantly, if you look closely, the wall branches in some places of mountain intersections, forming mockingly meaningless loops. Some researchers are simply amazed at the absurdity of this structure. The Great Wall cannot even be called super defensive, as it passes through the ridges of inaccessible mountains and hills where no army could pass even without the wall. And, in the mountains, it is impossible to accurately determine how old the foundation of the wall is. Over several centuries, stone structures on ordinary soil, carried by sedimentary rocks, inevitably sink into the ground by several meters, and this is easy to verify. But on rocky soil, such phenomena are not observed, so a relatively recent structure can be mistaken for a very ancient one. Moreover, there is no local population in the mountains, the potentially inconvenient witnesses of the construction of that historical landmark. While gathering material for this video, I came across an interesting statement. Quote, "As is known, to the north of the territory of modern China, there existed another, much older civilization. This is repeatedly confirmed by archaeological discoveries made, in particular, in the territory of eastern Siberia. Impressive evidence of this civilization, comparable to Archaeum and the Urals, has not only not been studied to this day, but has also not received due evaluation." End of quote. Interesting, isn't it? We were not told why a great people might have lived beyond this wall. But the most interesting thing here is that the embrasures on one part of the wall are facing south, not north. In the direction of China, not the other way around. Many independent researchers have decided to check these arguments. As it turns out, there are sections of the wall where the battlements are indeed facing south. Also, there are sections where the embrasures with battlements are facing in both directions. In general, many people lean towards the version that whoever built this wall, it was not intended to defend any particular state. It simply outlined borders. Perhaps it was even built for some other technical reasons, rather than for military purposes. And, as it turns out, tourists are usually shown one section of the Great Wall, located 60 kilometers northwest of Beijing. This is the Badaling Mountain area, and the length of the wall here is 50 kilometers. Indeed, the wall is in excellent condition, which is not surprising. Its reconstruction on this section was carried out in the 1950s. In fact, the wall was rebuilt, although it is claimed to be on old foundations. Yes, and the Chinese have nothing else to show. There are no other credible remnants of the supposed thousands of kilometers of the Great Wall of China. But real photos of the Great Wall of China have still survived. This photo was taken in 1998, a 200-kilometer section of the Great Wall of China. And this is also a part of the wall in some urban district. And there are many such photos. And these hills, in fact, are also remnants of the wall. Real photos are just not shown to us. But, as claimed, the wall can be seen from space. Just curious, what can be seen from there? After all, no scientist has confirmed or refuted this fact, just like the rumors that the wall can be seen from the surface of the moon. But the story that the Great Wall of China was built not by the Chinese, but by another, more ancient civilization, has long been bothering many historians and even scientists. But at the end of this video, let's try to gather all the facts together and figure out whether the Chinese built the Great Wall or it was other civilizations. The first thing that indicates the truth of the theory is the placement of the loopholes. If the Chinese built the wall to defend against northern nomadic tribes, the loopholes should have been facing north, from where the enemies could come. Another interesting point is the construction of the wall. It is similar to medieval European and Russian defensive structures designed to protect against firearms. But in the times of ancient China, and even more so before our era, when, according to official historical science, the construction of the earliest sections of the Great Wall of China began, there simply were no firearms. Even the wild nomadic tribes, supposedly against whom the wall was built, did not possess such weapons for which the wall would be erected. These facts suggest that the people who built this grandiose wall and used it for defense were territorially located on the northern side. If we assume that they were not Chinese, then who were they? What do you think? Write comments. I think together we can discover the truth. And, of course, subscribe to the channel so as not to miss a lot of interesting things. See you in new videos.